And we often forget that we haven't just had one little measly life. We've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives. I believe that most of you have lived at least 400, 600, maybe even 800 lives here on Earth alone. And of course, you're all starseeds. You have all had experiences in other dimensions or realms or planets or planes, however you kind of like to think about that bigger picture. Often we feel like we're stuck in the corporate world or in a work-a-day job because we're really afraid in some way or another to do something bigger, maybe to be seen. Have you ever felt, I'm afraid to be seen? Somebody might hurt me if they know what I think or what I believe. Well, I believe that you have a soul plan. Before you embodied, your soul literally wrote out a whole plan. Just like if you were going to start a business, you would write a business plan for yourself. Well, that's exactly what your soul does before you come to Earth. You say, there are people I want to be with. There are soul contracts I want to write. There are things I want to learn about. My soul is not fully evolved, and so I'd like to still learn some lessons. I would like to bring some of the talents that I have back to Earth to help humanity or people awaken, or maybe to invent something new, or to bring more love to the world. It could be any type of gift or talent that you put into your soul's plan. But the really interesting thing is that we also write challenges into our soul plan. And some of it is to learn and grow ourselves as a soul. And some of it is actually to help other people with their karmic patterns or their soul growth. So what I've realized is that many people feel, because they've had challenges, that they're not good enough to do what they maybe would like to do. Is there something that you would like to do or create? You know, it could be have a really loving relationship, or have a family, or write a book. And we think, who am I? How am I ever going to make something like that happen? Well, the truth is, again, because you're that ancient and wise soul that has hundreds and hundreds of lives filled with gifts or talents, you are the perfect person to do just that. Let me talk a little bit about what is written in your soul plan. So I was just saying, before we came to Earth, before we decided to reincarnate this time, each and every time, we write a new plan and we say, who do I want to be with? What people am I going to support? So we write soul contracts with other people, and they could be your parents, they could be your siblings, they could be your grandparents, maybe your best friend from down the street. Do any of you have still a best friend that you've known since you were 5 years old? So just take a moment as we're talking about this. You might want to jot down a couple of thoughts, like, what gift comes really easily to you that feels so natural you don't even think about it as a gift, because you just assume everybody can do that. For some of us, it's something like cooking, or loving, or being a connector, being friends with everybody and connecting all your friends. For some of us, writing poetry, or writing just kind of flows like water right through us. I have quite a few students who work with me in the Akashic Records who are animal communicators. A few of them work with horses to help autistic children to have the experience of riding horses and connecting and communicating in a deeper way with these beautiful animals. And a few of them help communicate, between a pet owner and the beautiful little divine pet. And so many of us have these different kinds of gifts, and we don't even think about them as gifts. But that can be part of your soul purpose. And the other thing that I think is very interesting is that our souls write a complicated, complex plan. Because you're ancient, your plan is not going to be simple. Like, you don't think, I'm going to bring one purpose to the world. You'd be totally bored. Right? So we write many different purposes. You may be a communicator and you may use it in numerous ways. You may speak on a stage. You may write a book. You may have a podcast. You may go out there and just talk to people. Your gifts and your skills as a communicator can be used in so many different kinds of ways. So I think it's interesting that when we realize not only did you write a plan, but you have a complicated plan with numerous purposes and many people to support you. Most of us have at least 25 or maybe even 50 soul contracts with other people. Like I was mentioning earlier, it might be with your parents and your siblings and your grandparents and some of your best friends from childhood. But certainly we often write soul contracts, of course, with significant partners. So that could be your spouse. It could be your best friend. It could be your business partner. It could be just, a couple of short contracts with people that you work with in your life. And sometimes we have what I say karma attached. So you have a soul contract, and it's got some challenging kind of issues or challenges written into that soul contract. You wanted to learn about forgiveness. And so you came together with this soul and you say, okay, I want to work on forgiveness. I want to remember to be able to forgive you when you show up as my business partner and we're growing a great business, and then you run off with all of the products. You run off with all of that proprietary information, and I'm left high and dry without a business. And first I hate you and I'm angry and I go into victim mode and I think, I don't deserve this. Why did this happen to me? You realize that business partner had a big wound and they never felt as good as you. And they always felt less than, like they couldn't live up to their side of the bargain. And so instead of doing their own soul work, they ran off with the goods. And so you forgive them. You realize they're an infinite soul also having a challenging life. They're working through their own karmic patterns. They want to understand and grow also. I always like to say karma is not about a punishment. It's not about right or wrong or good or bad. Karma is literally about your soul's growth. And so we get stuck in these cycles, which we often will refer to as a karmic pattern or a karmic wheel. And it may take you 2 or 10 or 20 lifetimes to understand that pattern. So when something challenging happens again, maybe it's the 20th life, and you think, why did this happen to me? And you are more conscious now after 20 lives of trying to work through this karmic pattern of forgiveness. And you go, oh, I really love that person and I see their trauma and I feel their pain and I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to forgive all of us for whatever transgressed, whatever happened that made this trauma show up. And so often our soul purpose is part of a learning and a growing and a realizing and a consciousness until we come to a place where we literally can take that and use that information and wisdom. And so I really would like to just kind of wrap this up with you by reminding you that your soul wrote a plan. And when you can get clarity around your soul's plan, so all the choices out there are no longer confusing. Because when you get clarity, you can make a decision with ease, because you have that soul guidance, that divine wisdom from your soul.